Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to James Bond Radio, to episode number 200. It's a double celebration today because not only is it episode 200, it's also a slightly belated 007th birthday of James Bond Radio. We've been broadcasting the podcast, or podcasting, I should say, for 7 years now. What a wonderful moment this is. And to help celebrate, we are inviting some of our intrepid listeners on to join us over the next few weeks to talk about Bond. And joining me to do that is none other than our man in Wales, Mr. Chris Wright. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Tommy. I'm good. It's good to be back. I'm loving the fact that JBR will be filling people's ears right now. And and I tell you what, there's something that, I mean, all the episodes are good fun, but the listener interviews are some of my favourites, I think, because there's always some surprises, I think, when you do listener interviews, and and I always find them a lot of fun. So
100%,
7 years,
man.
7 years is good, isn't it?
Long time, man. Do you think we've aged in 7 years?
I definitely have.
Well, you've crossed the big 4-0, haven't you? So you're the other side of it now. I've got a year left to go.
Yeah.
But
nervous?
Yeah, a little bit. You know,
yeah.
I'm starting to grey at the temples and all that.
Oh yeah, that's a classy way to do it, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's like the silver fox on the side.
If I can go the Clooney route, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah,
but there we go. So joining us today, Chris, we've been drawing names out of the hat, haven't we? So we've got some listeners joining us over the next few weeks, as I say, but we've invited a few people on as well to stock up the ranks a little bit. So first up today, we're going to be talking to the Porters. That is Alan J. Porter and his lovely lady Gillian Porter, because their new book, the James Bond Lexicon, has just come out. So we're going to be talking to them all about that. And then following up from the Porters, we have Mr. Matt Wood, who some of you may know, you Facebookers out there will know from the Shaken Not Stirred James Bond group. He's going to be joining us for a chat. And then after that, we have JBR listener Stephen Sanchez, our man in Gibraltar. So there's a double Bond whammy for you. We've got a Sanchez and a Gibraltar person who, is living in Living Daylights territory as well. So that's cool, isn't it?
He's got to have one of the coolest JBR listener names, I think, Stephen
absolutely.
Sanchez. And also the double S is a bit Steve Saltzman sort of thing going on as well.
Yeah, I like that.
I like it.
Nice. Yeah. Now, Chris, I've got some news for you, man. Obviously, we've been off the air for a little while and we've come back. And in my time away, I have discovered a little something which I'd like to share with you and all the listeners at home. Would you like to know what it is?
Is it something in your trousers?
No, I discovered that many moons ago. That's not a new development for me. The new development, Chris, the new discovery is a new actor I think could be in the running to play Bond.
Ooh,
now,
okay.
I've not seen anybody else mention this dude yet. Let me get my phone out so I can show you him, right? Now, what I will say is he's the right age for it. He's British. He's a handsome dude, right? But what I will say is when you Google his name, he has been the recipient of some quite unfortunate haircuts over the years. So you might be initially go like, oh no, that's terrible. But if you get him with the right haircut, so let me just get the right photo up first, right?
So just so myself and the listeners are aware of what's about to happen, is it going to be someone that we'll recognise? Will we know their name? Will we know their face? Or is it completely someone that most of us won't know?
This is the thing, right? I think you will know him if you've seen certain things, but not really. Not a household name, right?
Right.
Not even somebody who's been associated with the role of Bond. And there he is. Okay.
Has he been on TV show?
He certainly has. Now, I'm going to give you his name, right? British actor Billy Howell, right? And you spell Howell with an E on the end, okay? Now, did you watch The Serpent? That sort of dramatized thing about the serial killer. So on the BBC iPlayer, I imagine it was maybe on BBC America in the States or something else, I don't know. There was a series about a true sort of adaptation of a true, based on a true story. That's what I'm trying to say. Called The Serpent, which was about a serial killer in Thailand back in the 60s and 70s. And it's a very stylish kind of show. And basically the story goes, and this all happened, there was this dude who was like half Vietnamese, half Indian, I think. And he basically traveled around all over Asia in the 60s, murdering backpackers and stealing their stuff, right? And he killed loads of people.
Well, an arsehole.
And there were, indeed, not a nice guy. And there was a Dutchman who worked at the embassy in Bangkok who got a whiff of what was going on. Police wouldn't listen to him and all the rest of it. It's a great story. I highly recommend it. I even went and read the book after I watched the series. And this Dutch fellow called Herman Knippenberg, I think, with the K. And he basically investigated it off his own back and brought the dude to justice. Okay. And he's still in prison now, this geezer. And this is the guy that played him, right?
Right.
There he is, Billy Howell, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can
now
see
he looks
where you're
quite
going with
smooth
that.
in that photograph. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
some of the other photographs, granted, you will look at and you will say no. But think of Daniel
Because
with
of
the
the hair.
curtains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, let's look at that one, for example. Like, you know, that's, you know,
Oh, no,
that doesn't scream
I
Bond,
must
does it?
admit, he does not look like Bond in that
No,
photo.
he does not. But I think here's why I was aroused by him, right?
Right.
When I'm watching The Serpent, now the character he plays in The Serpent is not Bond-like at all, right? But there are certain camera angles that made me go, he's got a bit of a Fassbender vibe about him, like a younger Fassbender. Now, my dream would be to see Fassbender as Bond at the right stage in his life. I think he's obviously, you know, he's too past it now. But I just get vibes from this dude, right? So here's him in The Serpent. So once again, if you watch The Serpent, you will probably look at him and go, nah, it's not like, he doesn't look right because he's got big floppy sort of 70s hair. This is him in The Serpent, right?
Right.
Do you see that?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
And all the rest of it. But it's, yeah, there are some definite camera angles where I'm like, I feel like he's got potential. Now, I'm also going to say, I don't think he's fully formed in the Bondian mold yet. I think he needs a good, proper haircut. He needs the right suit, you know, maybe a little bit of bulking in the gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think he's a contender, right? He's 31.
Right.
He's British.
31,
He's that sort of TV level actor. If you want a bigger thing that he was in, he was Ray's dad in The Rise of Skywalker. That, I think it was called The Rise of Skywalker, wasn't it, the last one? Have I got that right?
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, so that's he's been about, you know. I tell you what, if you look, he looks a bit like JBR listener Matthew Grice in that one, doesn't he? Don't you think?
Yeah, he does a bit.
He's
Grace is going to be loving that. He'll be in.
he's going to be loving that. There you go.
next Bond.
Maybe Grice
Yeah.
should play Bond. But there you go, man. That's my one to watch. I think he could.
Can
be
you
a contender.
repeat his name for everyone listening?
So it's Billy Howell,
Billy
Billy space HOWLE. And remember, like, there's a film he's in with Richard Gere, right? That's the one where he's all suited and booted and looks smart. I don't know what that film is called, but yeah, just put Billy Howell, Richard Gere, and you will see those photos. But I tell you what, man, if you watch The Serpent, he's a bloody good actor. He's really good, really strong. So yeah, there's my tip, man.
There's a few things that I love about that. Firstly, I've never heard of him.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to get sort of a relative unknown who you think, oh, actually, there's a chance there. Because I think ultimately, that's with so many names being bandied round, and they do tend to be the same names, don't they?
They do.
There's a lot of people who I think would be very happy to see someone that isn't one of those names, if you know what I mean.
That's why I'm excited as well, because I flip flop a bit, right? I feel like, you know, I look at Cavill and I like, he's the obvious choice. I think he's like, when you go back to the 80s, you know, you look at Remington Steele and you're like, that dude's got to play Bond at some point. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's a similar thing with Cavill. I also see the criticisms of Cavill as well at the same time. And then, of course, Aidan Turner was another one that I thought, oh yeah, after that Agatha Christie thing he was in. But I do flip flop. I'm not. I don't know if I'm as warm on Aidan Turner anymore as I was. I don't know whether he's got that big enough sort of like charisma to carry a big franchise. Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether he does. Not that I've seen a lot of his stuff, but so I flip flop. This dude, again, I the only thing I've seen him in is The Serpent. I think he's really good. I think he could be an outside contender that kind of you know, comes in out of left field a little bit. But I think he's got some potential. So yeah, for everybody at home, look at The Serpent. Go and watch that. It's like a 10-part series, probably still on the BBC iPlayer for our British brothers and sisters, and somewhere elsewhere for our overseas brothers and sisters. But that's a good show in itself, very 60s, lots of good soundtrack as well. What do you think about that? It was
shot in Thailand, was it?
Yeah. Quite a big production by the sounds of it, by the looks of it. It was over there in Bangkok and all sorts of places. So
once we finish our second rerun of Game of Thrones, I'll get on that.
There you go. Are you doing a second run of Game of Thrones, are you?
Yeah, I haven't seen the first one for a long like we saw it obviously when it first came out. I think I'd bulk watched the first 3 or 4 episode series, and then the others as they came out, and then I hadn't seen them since. And then we just thought, oh god, let's try them out again.
Nice.
And they are a lot of fun, man. I do enjoy my Game of Thrones.
Do you know what? I had the same conversation with my missus just recently. Actually, we were thinking about going back through that again. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Righty ho, then, man. Shall we get cracking with today's interviews? Then we've got a triple threat, triple header. So first up, it's Alan J. Porter and Gillian Porter. So shall we chat to them about the James Bond Lexicon? Should we do that?
Yeah, let's get a bit of theme tune and we'll speak to Alan and Gillian.
My name's Bond. James Bond. Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy.
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down 007.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to lie.
Alan J. Porter, Gillian Porter, welcome to James Bond Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations on your 007th anniversary. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks you both. Yeah,
Thank you very much indeed.
And, well, is that glasses of champagne you have in there? We can just see.
It might be, and it might be a certain sort of champagne too, with a certain number on it.
Beautiful stuff. Hey,
excellent
good stuff. Sparing us.
007
Celebration.
Bollinger. Yeah, we've been waiting to open these bottles of 007 Bollinger for a while, and we were going to do it when the book came out, and then for various reasons we didn't actually do it on the actual day, so we thought we'd wait and do a double celebration of you guys and the book. So
what a beautiful thing.
That's very
and
sweet.
it's a good excuse to drink at what is our lunchtime. So
Oh,
it's
there
the
you
evening
go.
for you guys, but it's lunchtime for us. So.
So you guys are in Austin, Texas, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Beautiful stuff. How's life in Austin, Texas at the moment?
Good, beautiful and sunny,
Lovely
gorgeous, good
Great
Texas
stuff.
weather, yeah.
Cool. Now, this particular book has been a long time coming. I remember when you first appeared on JBR, was that 2015?
215,
Yeah.
I remember you talking about it, and it was roughly a year away at that point, and somewhat like No Time to Die, it was put back and it was put back and it was put back. And I remember tweeting you a couple of times saying, "Well, how's the new book coming along?" Thinking it was just around the corner. And here we are, 6 years later, and it's finally out, and it's out on available on Amazon and all the places where you buy books. So what took you so long?
I'll let Jill answer that one.
Well,
Because it was her fault.
it's my fault. It turned out to be a much bigger project than we thought. There is so much more out there than we initially thought. So that took time. Then in 2015, I was diagnosed with cancer. So everything went on hold while we got that sorted out. And we really didn't do, neither of us did any writing or anything from that point on for a while. By the time we got back into doing the book, deciding, we were going to go ahead with it, the co-publisher and on the book died suddenly. And so the publishing company, the other guy, decided that he was going to mothball the company and stop any work on any new books coming out. So then we're like, well, we have an almost complete book, but no publisher. So that made us think, what are we going to do now? We've got too far. But Alan already had a relationship with Van Allen Plexico from Rocket. And he decided he would take it on and publish it for us. So we got back on with it. There's just so much. And then the proofreading, and then you get put off because you're like, I don't want to go back and read all that again. And, there were typos in it that are already irritating us. So we obviously missed things, but we're just excited it's finally out and we can maybe move on with other projects.
And part of it was actually around No Time to Die. You just mentioned No Time to Die. Part of it was, what are we going to do about Bond 25? Because as the years went by and we kept adding more and more and more. It's like, well, where do we draw a line in the sand and say, that's it, we're finished, we're going to put it out? Because with a book like this, to be honest, you never really finish because there's always new stuff coming out.
Of course, yeah.
You were basically following trend, weren't you? Basically following trend of just delaying and delaying.
Yeah. So originally, once we got the agreement with Van Allen Plexico at White Rocket, he was going to take it on. We were like, we'll go to the end of 2019 so we can include Bond 25. Ha, ha, ha. And then when that started to slip, we eventually we were like, well, we'll keep going. We'll push it out. And then we were like, no, we can't just do that. We've got to put a line in the sand. We're going to stick with the end of 2019, and just focus on getting the book out originally. Otherwise, who knows? It may never,
Absolutely.
If we were going to wait for No Time to Die, who knows how long it was going to be? So we just decided to, like I say, put a stake in the ground and say, okay, we're finally going to put this book out there. So,
hey, and you know what? You can always do the lexicon too, can't you? After that,
Exactly.
Well, and also we've set up a companion website at jamesbondlexicon.online, plug,
nice.
where we're putting new entries as they come along. So we've already got 40 new entries on the website just from the last couple of Dynamite comic book series and the comic relief sketch stuff. So when No Time to Die comes out, that material will go on the website. And as you said, eventually we may get enough that we can do a second edition. So.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Sounds good.
So the title then, the James Bond Lexicon, can you just say where that came from? And firstly, for those such as myself, what exactly is a lexicon and why did you choose that sort of format?
So the dictionary definition of a lexicon is a dictionary. It's a dictionary about one particular subject. So that's basically what the book is. It's a dictionary of the fictional worlds of James Bond. And where did it come from? Basically, because I'm a geek and I love these sort of books. I think the first one of these I ever got was at college when we found the June encyclopedia in a secondhand bookstore, and my little geek brain exploded because it was an encyclopedia to a completely fictional world. And I've collected those sort of books over the years. We've got one on Arthurian legends, we've got one on myth and legends, we've got a couple of Batman encyclopedias. And so I just love that sort of book where I can just dive in. And as Jill sort of mentioned, our original publisher, Hassline Books, had actually already done a couple of lexicons. They'd done one on Planet of the Apes. They'd done one on Back to the Future. And I reached out to the publisher and was like, wouldn't it be cool to do a James Bond one? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, well, it only took me a year to write the illustrated 007. Thank you, Chris, for the plug behind it. So this will only take us about a year. Completely wrong on that score. So that's where it sort of came from, because there was already a couple of encyclopedias about the Bond movies. There's one book that covers the Ian Fleming novels in great detail. But while we were writing the book about the comics history or reading the continuation novels or God forbid, watching James Bond Jr. on YouTube, there's all these great characters that nobody's ever captured in a book. So the idea was, let's pull them all together in one book that covers all the fictional worlds of 007. So that's sort of where it came from. And here we are 10 years later, and it's eventually done.
Now, one of the things, it's one of my favorite things in the world of geekery, is when people such as yourself don't do things by half measures. Like you mentioned, you're a hardcore geek there. But the depths of your geekery has to be saluted and celebrated on quite a deep level. And I'm going to give you an example of why, because I've sort of skimmed through the book, because like you say, it's in a sort of almost dictionary kind of format. And you've got all the different letters you go through. So I just kind of flipped to D randomly. And the first entry on the page that I landed on, which was page 122, D, Doig, Tom, a decorator employed by Bond to refurbish his Wellington Square apartment in Solo. And I thought, damn, that's deep geekery. Like, that's not, Goldfinger had a henchman called Oddjob. That is so deep into the depths of geekery, and you've got every last detail you could possibly imagine on that. So I'm surprised you ever did manage to finish it, because I feel like there's decades worth of research and note-taking to go that deep. So what was that process like, man? Because it could quite easily, when you go that deep on something, you could come out the other end and be like, do you know what? I never ever want to see anything Bond related ever again.
There was a point.
Moments, yes.
There was a point where we got there, and you're like, oh my God. I think we got a bit when we kind of almost finished and we were going through it, we did get a bit almost slap happy where it was like, do we need this person? No, he doesn't do anything. Scratch. So I'm amazed that guy stayed in the book because he didn't move the story of whichever one that was forward. So those kind of people we decided had to go. Otherwise the book would be £500, 10,000 entries, and it would never be published.
Yeah, just to give you an example, when we printed out the final book is 453 pages. The first manuscript we printed out was over 700 pages.
Damn.
Whoa.
So we had to go through that. And as Jill said, we were literally going through and saying, does this person actually advance the plot or add anything, or is it interesting to us, and if it was just a random henchman called Bob who was in the background, then he went,
Well, Tom Doig is a lucky boy to stay in there then, isn't he?
Yeah. We obviously didn't argue about that one, so he slipped under the radar there on that one.
He's listening at the moment and opening a bottle of Bollinger himself just to celebrate.
Right. And one of the funny parts was because like you read a lot and then you start putting it in, and one of us would go, well, why is this guy important? And the other one would be, hang on a minute, I have to go check my notes, or maybe read the part of that story again, because we read so much sometimes you didn't actually remember why somebody was important, and you kind of occasionally would miss it in your write-up.
Yeah.
Because you were doing so many. So it was actually good that we both went through everything a couple of times, because there are a few times where it was like, well, that entry doesn't actually make sense without adding this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you talked about the process. So we did go through and read, watch, listen to everything that's mentioned from scratch. As I said, there was already a couple of encyclopedias about the movies and one about Fleming, and we put those aside. And it's like, we're not even going to look at those. We literally went back to the source material and everything and wrote our own notes. So we got stacks and stacks of notebooks. And we sort of split, because no one person could do the whole thing. It would never, ever get done. So
who got the James Bond Jr. episode task?
Me. I volunteered to do that one. So this is a sidebar, but it's shelved at the moment. But we did start a Man from U.N.C.L.E. lexicon, and I made Jill watch the Girl from U.N.C.L.E. TV show. And after that, I was not going to make her watch James Bond Jr. as well. So, But we split it between us. And then as we were going through, we'd start reading each other's material and editing each other's material. So at the end, it's sort of more of a mix between the two of us. But we did sort of divide and conquer, as you sort of to start out with. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the things I noticed was some of the great artwork in there as well. Some of those drawings of the different characters. So talk to us about where that art came from.
So this is done by a guy called Pat, and I always mangle his last name, so apologies, Pat, if you're listening. Carbajal, I think it's pronounced. Carbajal.
That's why I left it up to you, because I know his name from seeing his.
I've never actually met Pat or even spoken to him. It's all been email and social media. But he'd actually done the artwork for the previous two lexicons that I mentioned, the particularly the Planet of the Apes one. He'd done great work on that. So it was like, can we get this guy? And it turned out he's a huge Bond fan, which I didn't know at start. So when we first reached out, it was like, would you do like one illustration for each letter of the alphabet, plus a couple of spot illustrations? So we were expecting maybe 27, 30 illustrations. We got 80 illustrations back.
Wow.
And it's like, these are so good. We've got to use like as many as we possibly can. And I think we managed to squeeze nearly all of them into the book, because they're just amazing line art. The thing is, I was expecting this to be his first Bond published artwork. And then Mark Edlitz went and used him on one of his books.
Damn it.
So when I met Mark in New York, I accused him of stealing my artist, but
it's all spot on artwork. It's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
They would make such great prints.
Somebody actually told me the other day that the Blofeld illustration in here is way more threatening, looks more threatening and dangerous than Donald Pleasance does in the movie. And I was like, damn, he's right. He looks he looks more like a villain in here than he actually does in the movie.
Now, one thing I thought was really nice in the sort of opening pages of the book, you've got this chapter, I suppose you'd call it, which is, why is that Aston Martin there? Continuity in the world of Bond. And what I like about it is that you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can overthink a lot of things, can't you, when it comes to something like Bond? And you talk a little bit about how in Skyfall you have the DB5 in there, but it's the DB5 from Goldfinger because it's got all the gadgets in there and stuff, and it's like, well, how does that make sense in terms of the overall continuity of the series? Because that wouldn't make sense, kind of thing. And you've got quite a nice way of thinking of how you should approach that as a Bond fan and an observer. So talk to us a little bit about that, of how you approach that kind of stuff.
Well, I guess my initial reaction was probably like everybody else's when I saw the DB5 the first time we saw the movie, was like, oh, that's awesome. That moment where the Bond theme kicks in and they open the door and it's the DB5. It's like, whoa, geek brain explodes. And then, the days after, start thinking about the movie and it's like, well, that doesn't work. How does that work? And of course, working on something like this, where we are literally trying to tie all these entries together in some way, it's like, well, it just doesn't work at all. And it really bugged me for a long time. And then I really sat back and thought about it. And it was a point Jill made when she was reading the John Gardner book. She said, do you realize James Bond is getting younger as these books go forward? It just doesn't work. And then I was looking at the Fleming stuff. And if you sort of read the obituary in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, that's where the obituary was, wasn't it? Where that Fleming writes, if you then backtrack that, Bond was like 13 at the time of Casino Royale. And again, well, it just doesn't work. So if Fleming didn't care, why should I care? I don't know the fact I'm writing a book that's based on the whole idea of continuity, but why should I care? Just sit back and enjoy it. Enjoy the moment for what it was, and go back to that moment when the geek endorphins fired and it's like, cool, it's a DB5 on the screen and James Bond's driving it.
I have heard theories around how Casino Royale and Quantum came pre Dr. No, but Skyfall came post Die Another Day sort of thing, and there's all these sort of things going on. I wrote a geeky essay on that exact thing. Here's my pet theory about how the DB5 can fit in, and then I just screwed it up and threw it away. And I'm like, I just enjoy it for what it was. Exactly. One thing I was going to ask both of you, actually, obviously you covered so many like areas in depth. Was there any particular facet of the Bond world that you've included that was hard for you guys to gather specific information to hold in the book?
I think the hardest things at the time was the two Moneypenny short stories, because at that point they'd only been published in, I think it was The Spectator. I may be getting this wrong because it was quite a while ago, but they'd only been published in magazines which were not widely available. So we got one of those, who is a friend of ours who's a massive Bond collector. He had one of them. And then the other one, I managed to track down the editor at the magazine online and basically emailed her, and she provided us with a copy of it. So that and a couple of the kids' books. There was a series of kids' books where they advertised 4, but only ever published 2 that we found. So those were, and again, a Bond collector very kindly actually gave us both of his copies. Those sort of stuff on the periphery was the real hard things to track down. And I have actually since found out that I actually missed a couple of James Bond Jr. Choose Your Own Adventure books, which I didn't know about until about a month ago.
Edition two.
Yeah.
So first of all, actually, how deep does your geekery go, Jill? Because obviously we've spoken to Alan before and we know how the depths of his geekery. When it comes to Bond, how deep do you go?
I didn't used to go very deep at all until we did the book. And, I'll be the first to admit, I don't tend to get that geeky about the same things as Alan. I have a different whole set of geekery of my own.
She's an Agatha Christie geek.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah. So I understand it, because every time a new book comes out like that, I have to go buy it and read it. But it actually, the more we did the book, the more I appreciated the stories and got into things and that. So initially shallow, but now it's a lot deeper, if that makes sense.
Okay, that's a beautiful thing. So you were essentially taking one for the team to work on this book, and now your appreciation has grown as a result. I
think so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So basically, I owe a big time even more now. Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll look out for the Agatha Christie lexicon. The
Agatha Christie.
Yeah. But so was there?
I don't know. That's.
Sorry, go on. After you.
I say that's pretty well covered. I don't know after the books that I've read that I could actually do anything better than people have done. So
Alan's breathing a sigh of relief beside you.
So Alan, then, as the resident Bond geek, what did you learn? Was there anything when you were digging through all this stuff that you were like, whoa, that's cool. I never knew that before you got into this.
I don't think it was like individual cool moments. It was trends. I'm sort of jumping on Jill's thing here, but one of the things that she sort of raised as we were going through was how many killer animals there are in the Bond franchise, not necessarily in the movies and the books, but when you get out into the continuation novels and stuff, and particularly the Daily Express comics, which I should have known having done the other book, but you've got things like killer apes and
killer ferrets
and killer condors and dinosaurs and God knows there's so many killer animals in the extended Bond franchise that people who just sort of go to as a bit of lazy storytelling, but actually end up being really fun characters. So we had a sort of running gag about whenever the Shire-Tan the killer ape was going to turn up in the lexicon. So he gets referenced quite a bit. Nice. So that was one. The other thing that I think I knew but had never really noticed is the habit between the novels and the movie people of changing a character's name by one letter.
Okay.
So in the novels, the two twins, Jill and Tilly Masterton, and in the movies, they're Jill and Tilly Masterson.
Interesting.
Did you find out why?
No, and then like Honey Rider in the novel is Rider R-I-D-E-R, and in the movie R-Y-D-E-R. Hopefully I got that the right way around. But so that actually made cross-referencing things in the lexicon quite difficult because we had to make sure that we were referring to the right character spelt the right way. Even Tracy DiVincenzo is slightly different between the novel and the movie. So why Eon did that when they've got the rights to the character anyway?
It's very strange.
It's not
isn't
it's strange. It's not like they changed James Bond to James Bind or something, which, by the way, was my most common typo. I don't know why. It was just as we were putting the book together, it's like, why are these so close but different? Why just change one letter? So if there's some other movie Eon rights geek out there who knows the answer, I'd love to know what it is.
Yeah. I think if you and Edlitz put your head together, you could uncover some stuff, some previously unseen
that's
stuff.
on the books. Next time we can actually get together in New York.
There you go. That would be a conversation I'd like to earwig on for sure. So you've got this little section in the book called How Many Bonds, right? And you've got your listing off Bond number 1, 1953, Fleming's Bond. And then you're going through the years. You've got 1954, the TV Bond from the 1954 TV version of Casino Royale. Going through each of these, you're going up to 1982, Swedish Comics Bond. You've got Video Game Bond. You've got Benson's Bond. You've got Westbrook's Bond, and all the different types of Bond and different shapes and sizes he's come in. So how do you go through and you choose like what you're not going to focus on? Do you know what I mean? Because like you said, it's going to be endless if you did absolutely everything. So I noticed there in the opening pages, you've excluded a lot of the video game stuff and all that kind of stuff. So how did you make those choices of what's in there versus what's not?
Partly what we already had, which was all the video, all the movies, we had a lot of most of the continuation novels and stuff. We'd obviously already done we had the comics, so we did that. So it was like, well, that's easy. It's like comics, novels, movies, TV. That was the starting point, and we really didn't want to expand beyond that. I've had a little bit of feedback saying, why don't you include the video games? Simple reason is we're not video gamers. We don't own any video games. Well, it's not strictly true. We own Beatles Rock Band, but that's about it. We've never been video gamers. I don't have video games. I don't really know how to dig into a video game and get the stories out of it. And you've got to put some boundaries around a project like this, as you said, Tom. Otherwise, you just never ever finish it. So,
of course, yeah.
We've had a couple of people who've come forward over the recent months and said they'd like to help us build the entries for the video games to put on the website, which is great. So, maybe you'll start to see the video game entries put up. Same with the role-playing games, the Great Victory Games books, a couple of which were written by Raymond Benson. at some point we'll dig into those and get those on there. So, just because the book is done and out doesn't mean we're finished with this project. This is going to be an ongoing side project, at least for me anyway, going forward. So.
Speaking of which of the two of you is going to be narrating the audiobook?
I think would be the most boring. I actually had somebody on Twitter the other day ask me if it was going to be an audiobook, and I'm like, I don't think a dictionary really is the best thing for the audiobook format. But.
I bet you would get some sales though. That's for sure from our lot anyway.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. So you've inspired me, the two of you, with this book, because as I was leafing through it last night, you've inspired a new. I'd like to say I invented something based on your book, but I'm stealing it. A new JBR game, which is, as I'm scrolling through this, I'm like, you know what we should do? We should do Bondy and Blockbusters on JBR. Ooh. Wouldn't that be good? And you could be like, what D was Bond's house designer from Solo?
I like it. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And we can get a whole year's worth of games out of that. So I think that should be a new little feature for us. And you will have directly inspired that. Bondbusters. That's a better name.
I love it.
Like that.
Okay, yeah. but you have to play our book trailer for each episode.
Absolutely, we'll do. There you go. We'll have played it just before the interview on this as well, so people will have got to hear it.
Cool.
That was a cool little trailer. Good stuff. So, tell us where everybody at home, where they can get this, hold up a copy of the book, give us the title of the website and all that kind of stuff.
So this is our copy of the book. So yours will not have the nice black line across it because this is our pre-production print-proof copy. But that's what the book looks like. With a great art cover by Pat, whose name I can't pronounce.
I don't know whether it's Carbajal or Carbajal or
whatever. Yeah. So my apologies, Pat. By the way, if we're doing this on video too, I just want to show that Blofeld picture because
that'd be great.
Very nice. They are the business.
This is the Blofeld picture I was talking about.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
They're all so spot on. What a talented dude. I'd love some prints of those, man. They look great. They look great on the wall.
Yeah, he could do a whole thing of those, couldn't he?
Yeah. So you can get the book, as Tom mentioned, currently on Amazon. It will be at some point in some non-Amazon online stores, but it takes a little while for it to sort of work through the system. But it's on all the global Amazon sites. So whether you're in the UK, US, Japan, we've had sales from Germany, France, Spain so far.
Beautiful.
So all your global Amazon sites, it's available. If you go to James Bond Lexicon.online and click the page about the Bond books, we keep a running list of all the links, direct links to the various online sites. So as more is added, it'll be added on there. As I said, new entries you can find on James Bond Lexicon.online, and also just follow us on Twitter at Bond Lexicon, and we'll keep posting. We post a daily snippet from the book, an entry every day from the book.
Oh, that's really nice.
And we also, I think we're currently up to the letter F, so we've still got a few years to go yet of doing that.
Nice.
And any news and updates about the book and where it's available will be posted on the Twitter page as well. And also you can listen to us on Her Majesty's Secret Podcast Network, where I might mention a book occasionally, once or twice during certain episodes.
Cool stuff. I've noticed the first few people from the JBR family have posted their selfies holding the book up. So we'd love to see selfies of folks with it, and also we'd love to see some early reviews on Amazon, even if it's just it's brilliant, 5 stars. That'll do. We'll be always do the 5 stars, 100%. Good stuff. Now you've got some other things to plug, Alan. If I do say so myself, I hear you are doing a Beatles podcast as well. Something about the Beatles before they were the Beatles or something.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah. I actually just launched my own podcast. After years of co-hosting, I decided to actually find out what it actually takes to do one of these on my own.
Nice.
So this is my learning exercise. So I've just launched a new podcast called Before They Were Beatles, which is based on a book I wrote 12 years ago now, I think, about the teenage Beatles. And it covers literally their teenage years, how the band came together. And it ends with them going to Hamburg, when they just picked the name of Beatles. So actually it's all about everything before they were Beatles. And there'll be the short intro episode is up, and we'll be doing an episode a month going forward. So
beautiful
And
stuff.
is that released on the same date every month, or?
I haven't really got into that rhythm with it yet, but I'm aiming to. I just haven't picked which date that's going to be yet. So
do you know what? I smell a future book coming based on that as well. That sounds awful good if that one ever happens. Cool stuff.
Excellent.
All right, man. I think people owe you guys a follow on Instagram as well, because I follow you on Instagram, Alan, and you have topped up my to read list quite considerably, because every so often you'll post a cover of a book with a little short, a couple of paragraphs review, and I read all of them, pretty much most of them if I miss any. And my to read list on Goodreads has got massive thanks to you, because there's so many on there that I'm like, oh, that sounds good. And one I read years ago on your based on one of your Instagram recommendations was The Napoleon of Crime. Do you remember that book?
Yes, I do. That's a good book.
That was a great one. I loved that. I flew through that in a matter of days. It was a good one. So good taste in books, absolutely. Anything else you want to plug before we
well, if you that Instagram account that Tom's just mentioned is just my name, at Alan J. Porter. And if you want the Bond stuff on Instagram, we're at James Bond Lexicon. So Bond Lexicon on Twitter and at James Bond Lexicon on Instagram.
And of course, subscribe to On MHD Secret Podcast as well.
Please.
Mr. Plexico's been on JBR before as well. He's been a previous guest in years gone by. So there you go.
We're taking over the world slightly.
Cool, good stuff. All right, well, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will see you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great to see you both.
Cool. Cheers,
For edition 2.
Don't depress me too much. Bye.
Cool.
Thanks for having me aboard. Thanks.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Did you enjoy that?
Well, like I haven't had a chance to have a look at the book properly, but I can't wait to get my hands on it. It looks massive, like a proper A to Z of everything Bond.
It really is, man. And it's like we said in the interview, the level of detail is quite mind blowing. Like as Bond geeks as we all are, I could flip to any page here, and I'm just doing it now. I'm just going through the digital version, and I'm like, let's flip to this one. And there's so many characters and things that I'm like, oh, what's that? There's a lot to be learned, basically. It's mind-blowing detail is what it is.
And I think from on behalf of the Bond fan community, we've got to thank Alan and Gillian. Thank them both, because like the amount of time, how many years did he say he's been working on it? At least 6 or something, wasn't it? 6 or 7 years, yeah, which is incredible, really. But you'll see why when you see the content in the book. Yeah, like you were saying, like you picked on one random, what was it? Some
Tom Doig, the interior decorator for Bond in the Solo novel. Like that's great. That is like you said, that is a proper service to in years to come, in 100 years, people when they're studying Bond, they can flip through that, and that'll be like a guide to every last detail.
The only downside is Rory and John are going to use it in their JBR quizzes on Friday, so no one's going to have a clue.
That is true. Well, on that note, I've basically, like I said to Alan there, I have invented, or stolen rather, the Bondbusters game, and I'm going to be quizzing you on the Bondbusters at the end of today's episode.
Today? So, no, I haven't prepared.
Ready, yeah. I'm going to be nice because I'll explain the rules to you when the time comes, but I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to make it achievable rather than, asking you who Tom Doig is.
That's very kind
all
of you.
Those crazy things. But yes, absolutely. Everybody at home, make sure you go and order a copy of that. The James Bond Lexicon. There will be many, many details for all you sort of completists, I would say, to pick up. And obviously follow Alan and Gillian on all the social medias, and check out Alan's new Beatles podcast, before they were Beatles, and all that kind of stuff, because Alan's always up to interesting stuff. 100%.
And it's also cool if anyone wants to send any photos of them holding the book and stuff. I know we've had a few come in already, and obviously Alan and Gillian were really happy to see that. But if any JBR listeners have got the book and want to take a photo of themselves with the book in some Bondian location, or in your back garden, wherever's easiest, send it on through.
Cool stuff. All right then. So next on the agenda, Chris, you wanted to invite somebody on in particular, didn't you? Which is obviously Matt Wood, the man behind the Shaken Not Stirred Facebook group. Now, the one thing I do like about the Shaken Not Stirred Facebook group, I'm not a member of many things these days, it must be said, whether that's Facebook groups or forums or any of that stuff. Simply because there are a lot of opinions out there, aren't there? And a lot of them make me want to just throw myself out the nearest window when I read them. And Shaken Not Stirred is one of those rare little gems where it's like, it's a nice community where people chat and they say things and other people go, oh, that's a nice idea. Maybe I don't really agree with that, but here's my idea on this. And it's discourse. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing, which is very rare online these days, where it's usually, screaming matches and slagging off my peers, which, I'm never behind that at all. So talk to me. What have we got coming up?
Yeah, no, he's really good. So Matt, he basically co-started Shaken Not Stirred with Nick Fentiman. I don't know how long it's been running now. It must be at least a year or two. But yeah, I can't remember how initially I found out about them. But there's a lot of content going on there, which is pretty good. And I ended up started doing these Bond film polls every Friday, which has been quite a lot of fun. But they're just good guys, and everyone on there seems to be pretty cool. So I thought, well, I think I've messaged Matt and chatted to him, sort of. Just through messaging, but not really had a chance to have a proper chat. Obviously, COVID, we haven't been able to do any meetups recently, so I thought it'd be good to get him on, have a little chat with him, and see. Is the thing that we like is finding out what areas of Bond people are really into. What areas of Bond really does it for someone, and equally what areas of Bond perhaps they might not be as interested in. Mm-hmm. So I thought, get him on the show. We'll have a little chat.
100%. That sounds good then. So let's do it then. Without any further ado, let's talk to Matt Wood.
Okay, well, welcome to the show, Mr. Matt Wood, who is the originator of Shaken Not Stirred, the Facebook James Bond fan group. It's a pleasure to have you on board, Matt. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me, guys, and happy 007th anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Thanks very much. You know what, dude? You've managed to do something that's quite, I would say, challenging and very rare in this day and age, where you've managed to put together an online Bond community that's actually full of nice people that speak to each other in a respectful manner. And that's a wonderful thing, man. So congrats to you for that. That's a well-deserved prize.
Oh, thanks very much. It's not easy, but obviously I've got a good friend, Nick Fentiman, who helps me out. And basically the approach we sort of took, because I work in a school, and for kids, it's literally like you put the rules there and then they have to follow them because they've agreed to them, if that makes sense. So the sort of same thing applies. Like the rules are there. If anyone's causing any problems, they're straight out. So they
get the boots. Yeah.
Nice. I've just got a quick question before we dive into to the Bond quick fire round. If you're a teacher and you're at school, but you find out that one of your pupils is a diehard Bond fan, do you make their exams go up a notch or two? Just a little favour there if they're into Bond. How does that work?
Unfortunately not. I mean, I'm a PE side of it, so it's just PE assessments from that point of view. But I do actually, we do like circuit training. I have like the Bond music on when we're doing that. Nice. So we're climbing the ropes. We're doing the climbing and the swinging on the ropes. I've got like the Bond theme on. I have like Mission Impossible, sort of that sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
And actually, someone pointed out a couple of years ago, one of the Year 6 pupils goes, "Is this a thing from Dr. No?" I was like, "Yes."
Oh,
nice.
Right. Yeah. And I asked them how it was, and they went, "Oh, it was really good, but the blowing up of the lab was quite unnecessary, apparently." So,
what age group is this you teach?
Yeah, give that pupil an A* straight away.
What age group is it you teach? Sorry.
All year groups. I mean, at the moment, because of COVID, it's key stage 2, so years 3 to 6. But it's usually from year 1 to 6. I do, yeah.
Oh, nice one, cool.
I know what you'd be doing, Tommy. You'd be doing African rundown from Casino Royale.
100%, mate. 100%.
Running around the hall, get Malacca to chase him or something.
Right then, Matt. We're going to take you through the quick fire questions, dude, and we've got a new one. We've inserted in. So it started off with 007 quickfire questions. It's now 009 quickfire questions, and so I think it's going to be a good one. I'm low level confident with the new question, Chris. I think it's good.
No, I think it'll be a good debating one. This one,
yeah, absolutely. So, do you want to lead the way then, Chris? You start.
Yeah,
off, mate.
Of course. Okay, Mr. Matt Wood, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, quickfire. Question 1 is: what is your favourite James Bond film?
Oh, it's a tough one, but I'm going to have to. I would have to go for Goldfinger.
Ooh, that's a beauty. And And what is it about Goldfinger then? Why is that top of the pile for you?
I just everything about it is quite iconic, isn't it? I mean, you've got a really good villain, you've got a fantastic henchman, the plot's really good. Bond actually isn't great in that film. He isn't successful, is he? Like Goldfinger sort of got him running around after him all the time. So it kind of flips it on the head, but just it captures the 60s perfectly. It's just one of them that, you know, always go back to. And it's quite, for a Bond film, it's not a long one, is it really?
No, it's very pacey. I think Goldfinger, it flits from scene to scene like really quick. It's nicely edited, and like you said, pretty much the most iconic film in the series. I reckon anyone would agree with that, wouldn't they?
The thing with Goldfinger, man, is that, like you say, it's funny. I remember years ago now when we reviewed it, we sort of noticed that, didn't we, Chris? That sort of everything Bond does, he kind of screws up and it doesn't go well, and she ends up dying. Then he tries to escape and like crashes the car and blah blah blah. Everybody ends up dying around him and all the rest of it. So, like you say, Matt, not the most efficient 00 agent in Goldfinger, but there is like every frame is almost iconic in that film, isn't it? Like when you even down to like the shadow, the silhouette of Oddjob on the wall, you got the golden girl, like everything just looks so perfect. It's just, even those like back projection scenes in Miami, like it for some reason it just is cool. You know what I mean? Every frame in that movie is just amazing to look at, especially when you see it on the big screen these days.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously he looks amazing, Goldfinger as well, doesn't he, old Shawnee boy? Without
Absolutely.
a doubt.
Cool.
Okay, Tommy, what's question 2 then?
Question number 2 then is, what is your favourite Bond book?
Oh, that's a tough one. To be fair, I started reading them last year. Because last year, wow, it's going so quick, doesn't it? 2019, I think it was. And we actually had, at the last Shaken Not Stirred meal, we had AJ come on board, and obviously his book, everyone knows his book, and he was really plugging the Fleming novels. And you know what? I'm not a huge book reading fan, but he sort of tempted me to read them. And I read up to Dr. No.
Very nice.
And yeah, so I'm getting there slowly. But the best one for me is From Russia with Love at the moment.
Ooh, now that's an interesting one, right? Because that's obviously the one that kicked it all off with JFK and stuff when he listed that as a favourite. But the weird thing about that is obviously Bond doesn't come into it for ages, does it? It's like halfway through the book almost that he comes in. So what is it about From Russia that you like? Because I remember first reading From Russia and was like, damn, this one's heavy going to start with, because you have all that detail about Moscow and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, it's a I wouldn't call it a slog. That's the wrong word, but it's not as instant as the other ones, is it? It's a long lead up to From Russia. So talk to us about what you like about that one, why that's a favourite so far.
Well, obviously, I've seen the film and everything like that, but it's just so descriptive. And the backstory to, you've got, Grant, the backstory, Donovan, and things like that, and finding out how he killed people as a teenager. And that was kind of like, wow, I didn't expect half that stuff to be in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, it's a bit of a slog because you've got all the descriptive background, how the sort of the KGB works, this, that, and the other, and it builds up nicely to it. But I just think it's just, for me, it was quite exciting seeing the backstory, because you've seen the film, you can picture it in your head almost as you're going through different pieces. But yeah, no, that one for me, I thought was they did it well as well.
So let me throw a little tester out there, flipping that on its head. Then, what would you say is your least favourite so far?
Oh, my least favourite, that's got to be Diamonds, to be honest.
I think that's probably for everyone, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, same here, out of that lot. Because you got a couple of belters. I think Moonraker's a decent one. Well, actually, all the other ones are really decent up until Dr. No. But Diamonds is probably the one that struggles a bit. But I'm the same as you, Matt. I think From Russia is an amazing novel. And what I find interesting is from our lot, because not everyone obviously listening, but us three, we'd watch the films first and then reading the book afterward. You do find those little bits and pieces that obviously you can recognize from the film, and then other bits which are completely not included, like completely different. And then there are one or two elements that have kind of seeped through, but they're slightly tweaked in one way or another. So it's quite a cool sort of, you're seeing things through fresh eyes when you read it. So yeah.
Now, let me ask you this: are you doing traditional sit-down reading a book, or are you audiobooking?
Oh no, traditional book reading. Yeah,
very nice. All right, cool,
very good.
Done. My favourite top tip when it comes to reading Bond is to get the audiobook as well. Get that in your ears, and then hold the book as well, and then you're like absorbed You know,
it's an oral orgasm and an oral.
There you go. But yeah, nicely done.
Cool. Okay, on to question 3. Okay, this one might be easy, might be difficult. We'll see. What is your favourite actor to have portrayed, or who is your favourite actor to have portrayed James Bond?
Right, this one I'm going to go for Connery. He's just, to me, I mean, the guy started it off, kick-started it off, you know. He come in, you just look at him when he does his James Bond. I mean, how cool is that in Dr. No when he's doing that?
Amazing.
I mean, to be fair, I'm a big fan of all the Bonds. I don't really look at any weak links there. I think they're all kind of strong men that have took the job on. But Connery just seems to be leading the way, and he sort of, you know, kickstarted this whole thing. I'm sure every actor goes back to Connery or has him in their mind, kind of when they're doing it.
I tell you what, man, you're absolutely right in that James Bond moment in Dr. No is one of the greatest cinema moments of all cinema, not just Bond, obviously. That's like such a key iconic moment. But he always is cool, even when he's wearing the most outrageous thing, like in the baby blue onesie in Goldfinger. That moment, the way he's sort of like peering over the balcony and he's kind of does it as he's walking along. He should look ridiculous, shouldn't he, with that thing on? I would look ridiculous, and all of us would look ridiculous wearing that onesie, but he looks ultimate cool even wearing that. So that says something, doesn't it?
He's the only dude that can get away with it, I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
And he does an amazing delivery as James Bond in that scene as well, in Goldfinger, when he's going up to Jill Masterson. It's so smoothly done. Yeah. He's brilliant, but yeah, love it. Nice one, Matt.
Let me flip that one again then, Matt. So least favourite Bond?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I know you just said you love them all, but is there?
I do. Yeah. That's a lot harder. I'm going to go for. I'm probably going to have to go for Lazenby. To be fair, I feel harsh because he isn't as bad as some people make out. As you know, in the community, he's kind of a bit of a half and half. But yeah, I'd have to say Lazenby.
Do you know what? I appreciate what you just did because you felt pain then, didn't you, saying that? You didn't want to say it. You were like, oh, I've got to, but I don't want to. I don't want to say anything bad.
That was torture.
Go question number 4, and you're allowed 2 for this one, Matt, as you might imagine. Favourite Bond girl?
I had a feeling this one might come up too fair. I'm going to go for Solitaire.
Goodness gracious.
James Seymour, Live and Let Die. Just, she, you know, amazing woman. Even she looks amazing today. You look at her now. Wow. You know, but the age of 18 or whatever she was when she played the part, you know, she had a bit of air and mystery about her as well. You know, when she first come on, you didn't know quite what she was about, and she's sort of stuck in a dilemma, isn't she? Yeah. You know, she's got Bond on one side, and she knows he's trying to help, and then she's stuck with Kananga and the rest of them. So it's kind of, you know, a moral dilemma for her. Obviously not Bond, because he just doesn't care, to be fair.
You've got one or two lovers cards. Help him out.
Beautiful stuff. Excellent choice.
Okay, on to the next one then. We've got, this is question 5, Matt. Who is your favourite James Bond villain?
Oh, favourite Bond villain. I'm gonna go for Goldfinger. I know he seems to be very Goldfingery today, but that didn't come out right. But yeah, Goldfinger probably. He's, you know, when he first comes onto the scene, you know, playing the game, he's trying to cheat the game. He's always got something going on. And even when I think he, you know, Bond doesn't seem to get anywhere with him. He seems to be always a step ahead, always out in front. And pretty much, I think he probably would have got the job done if it wasn't for Pussy Galore, to be fair. I mean, even at the end, he turned into a general, started shooting the Americans and got out. You know, what Bond villain sort of escapes kind of thing after all that. So, Goldfinger for me.
All right, excellent choice. It's he came top of I remember there was some newspaper poll or something, or it might have been on a website in recent years, where he did come out as the number one villain amongst the wider population as well, didn't it? He is a belter. Because I often think, like, in my brain as a Bond fan, I feel like
this is where it gets deep, man.
This is where it gets a bit weird. In my brain, I look at something like, if I was to consider the best sort of most iconic villain for everybody, not just for lunatics like us, but like amongst the general populace, my mind would go to Donald Pleasance's Blofeld. You know, the white pussycat is the iconic thing I would say for for people. But from that poll that was taken, it was, I don't think he even came in second place, old Donald. I think it was lower than that. And Goldfinger was firmly in first, wasn't he?
You know what though, Tom? I think if it was just based purely on picture, so you just saw their faces and the bodies, Blofeld would come up top straight away. Yeah. But it's not really as memorable a name as Goldfinger. The films that he were in weren't called Blofeld. No, that's true. And I think that kind of helps Goldfinger. But I agree with Matt. Goldfinger is my favourite, and what an epic villain. And you're right, Matt, completely. Like, he basically bests Bond pretty much the whole way through the film. And it's just his greed. He's like the greediest dude in the world, and his love and his obsession for gold he is such a brilliant villain. Great choice. Great choice.
Nice one. Question number 6 then is, what is your favourite Bond theme song?
Oh, Bond theme song. This one's a bit trickier actually. You know what? There's loads, isn't there? You've always got, like, when it comes to music and that, you've always got like 2 or 3 tracks that are sort of there.
What are those 2 or 3 tracks?
Pardon?
What are those 2 or 3 tracks?
So Goldfinger, Live and Let Die. And I've got sort of Nobody Does It Better sort of there. But I want to go for Live and Let Die, because the instrumental as well is amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go for Live and Let Die on that one.
That is a beauty, isn't it? And I've thought it before, is that the way that's used in the score as well, with the ding, 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 it almost becomes its own theme. Obviously it is the theme, but it's almost good enough to replace the Bond theme, which it kind of, I think when you watch Live and Let Die, it does in several key sequences, like where the Bond theme would usually go, they've slotted that in there as well. And I'm not averse to that. I like that. It's because it's such a brilliant piece of music. I think it does the business. Like, usually I would complain. I'd be like, you should have stuck the Bond theme there. But when it comes to Live and Let Die, I'm happy for them to stick that in there because it is brilliant. Yeah, I would say that and Majesties are the 2 that I think are almost strong enough to be like the main Bond theme. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah,
totally. And you hit on an important point there, Tom. I think films, theme songs that get weaved into the soundtrack, to the cue throughout the film, just tend to elevate that film even more. Like the Goldfinger is a great example. Like there's strings from the Goldfinger theme song throughout that movie, and it creates character. It builds up Goldfinger himself, and I think the films that do that, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to happen much these days. But I think they definitely help to elevate the film when they do that sort of thing. Okay, this is an interesting now. Question 007, Matt. What is your favourite James Bond location? And now you can have 2 choices here. The first that you visited and the second that you'd like to visit. Where would they be?
Right, Bond locations. Wow, you guys come up with some good questions here, to be fair. They get you thinking. So one I visited. To be fair, I haven't visited that many as I would like to have done. I'm going to say the one that I've visited, probably Stoke Poges, because obviously the Goldfinger link and all that. But I visited there, and you look at that. As you're even driving up the driveway, you're just driving up there. It's just so cool, isn't it? It's just like you think, wow, it's exactly the same as how it is on film. So for me, that was a bit of a thing. And as we was lucky enough to go inside and to go down the corridor and have a look in one of the rooms. Obviously, got the Tomorrow Never Dies was filmed there as well. That's pretty cool. That.
It's a magical experience. I found when we drove up there I don't know if it was the first time when I was with you, Tommy. It might have been the first or second time, and we had the Goldfinger music playing, and it was just it's a really, really slow, casual drive, and you notice the golf course before you've even seen like Stoke Poges house, Stoke Park house, and then slowly you turn a corner and you just see it emerge, and it is kind of like a magical experience, I'd say. What do you think,
magical. Tom? I remember that. I think that was my first time. I think you'd been before, if I remember right. And we had the Goldfinger score playing as we approached. And there's that moment where you sort of go round the trees, and then you just see it revealed behind the trees, and it is a really majestic sight. And then when you get out, like right where you park and you get out, isn't it? There's the whole from the golf game in the film, like right next to the car park, and you can just look at it. And to me, that's the most mind-blowing thing, like you said there, Matt, where it looks exactly the same. All these years later, when you go back to a Bond location that does look identical, it is a weird feeling to stand there and imagine the gold bar lying there on the grass, and like Bond stood there and Goldfinger, and it was like, that is the spot it happened. It's just a really bizarre thing, you know. And there's the little bit, obviously, where they have the chat after the game, and he's like, "Oh no, Mr. Bond, I own the club," and all that. And it was like, that was right in that spot. Weird, but in such a beautiful and amazing way. Yeah.
What about location that you'd like to visit the most out of the ones that you haven't?
I mean, I'm scared of heights, but Piz Gloria has got to be up there, isn't it? I mean, I know you guys have been there. You did the amazing 50th anniversary tour, and it just, from all the pictures of it just looks amazing, doesn't it?
If you get a chance, Matt, it's highly, well, I mean, I think it's, for me, Tommy, you've visited a lot, obviously James Bond Island as well, and a few others, but it's right up there, isn't it, Piz Gloria? I think if you can get a chance to get out there, Matt, definitely.
You have to do it, man. I think that's the key pilgrimage for everybody. I would say James Bond Island, I think there's three, if I'm honest. I think there's three all-time top-tier Bond locations. James Bond Island is definitely one of them. There's just something, because it's so different to what you're used to. That is a magical thing, standing on that beach. And again, get rid of all the tourists. If you go super early, you can get the island to yourself. If you go super early, it is identical, apart from a few little shacks where they've got stalls and stuff. But if you don't look over there, then you don't see them. And it is bang on the money, and that's great. And then I would say Piz Gloria definitely is another one. And then the last one that I haven't been to yet is GoldenEye in Jamaica. Obviously, you know, that's a bit of a different beast, but I think those are the three number one Bond locations there for me, I reckon. But you got to do it, man. You say you're scared of heights as well. I'm a bit of a pussy when it comes to that stuff. There's a video of us on that walkway, isn't there, Chris? Where there's like a see-through walkway on the side of the bloody mountain. And there's JBR listener John Ward jumping up and down on it, trying to freak me out, and freak me out he did. There's me facing the rock going, "Oh, I don't like it." Yeah, so, but do it, man. You will not regret it. It's a magical thing.
And in the cable car going up, there were a lot of people as well who weren't fond of heights. And if you just stand in the middle, you're surrounded by quite a few people. So if you don't want to look outside, you can kind of huddle yourself in the middle and wait until you get to the top. But yeah, if you get a chance. 100%.
And if you're feeling brave, man, you can just rip out your pockets and go hand over hand over the table and way back down. You'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be good. Cool stuff. Now, new question for you, Matt. Number 8. What is your most controversial or unpopular Bond opinion?
All right. I'm going to say The World Is Not Enough is a really good film.
All right. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay,
So,
talk to us about The World Is Not Enough. What's that doing for you? That first of all, then, why is that controversial or unpopular? What do you think? What's the score with that?
Well, I mean, as a whole, within the community, like from what I've heard, things like that, it's not up there with the best iconic ones. A lot of people say, well, Brosnan. I'd rather don't like it because of Brosnan, or it's too soap opera-y, that sort of thing. Or the locations aren't as grand as, like, say, Moonmaker. You've got Rio, you've got all them exotic locations. But I just think Twine's different. For me, it's a bit of nostalgia as well, because I got into Bond in the 00 Heaven season in 99. So when I was like 13, my dad said, "You got to watch these films," and I watched them, and that was it for me. And come like Christmas 2000, I think I had the World Is Not Enough video, I had the PlayStation game, I had the lot, and I just watched it, and I just thought, wow, it's amazing. I mean, the David Arnold soundtrack is unbelievable. I think it's one of the best. The fact that you've got the main villain is a female as well, it sort of flips on its head. I thought that was a really good thing to do. Very, very brave. The boat chase on the Thames, that for me, when the boat comes out of MI6, it's just so iconic. You hear the theme. I was thinking, everything about it for me is just, I just love it, absolutely love it. But I know for others, it's like, it's that dull sort of boring thing again. But there's a lot of cool action sequences now, like the Caviar Factory, with Bond sliding down with the crowbar and things like that. And I just love that one.
So is your dad a Bond fan as well? Do you watch them with him, and does he have a favourite as well?
Yeah, well, funny enough, he got me into it because, like, when you're at a certain age, when Channel 5 came on as well, they played a lot of films like Rambo's, things like that. Dad's like, "Oh, you got to watch this film." And when your dad says you got to watch it, it's really good. I don't know. I automatically thought, it's going to be a load of rubbish. I don't know why. I just thought, Dad says it's probably going to be some like Western or something like that. Anyway, so sit down, watch Rambo's, things like that. But Bond, he's not massive like me. I mean, I've gone completely, he probably thinks I'm probably.
You're one of us, Matt. You're one of us.
He does like Bond. He went to see Live and Let Die at the cinemas, pictures when he was a kid. And he said, my granddad took him, and so his favourite is For Your Eyes Only. He really likes that one.
Very nice.
Very
That's an excellent choice. Yeah, dude. I think 13 is the magic year for capturing a kid's imagination. Like, it was the same for me. 13 in gold for GoldenEye. I was 13. You were 13 for World Is Not Enough. I think that's the window, man, where you get got. Do you know what I mean? When you're growing up, if you see a Bond film at the right moment when you're 13, the right Bond film at the right time, I think that's where it kind of lights the geeky touch paper. But dude, yeah, I love The World Is Not Enough as well. Likewise, I understand people's criticisms of it, but man, like you said, that boat chase is up there with, that's an all-time, like we have to say, there's like if you were to do like a trailer of all the whole Bond series, of all like the high points, that boat chase would definitely be in there. And like you say, again, Electra King being the villain there, nice little twist there. That is a belter moment. For me, I think it's a Bond film that was like, it just missed out on true greatness by like 5 millimeters. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, if you sort of rethink Christmas Jones a little bit, rewrite a bit of that, you would have had a bang on top drawer Bond movie. That I feel like that would have been Pierce's Goldfinger without some of that stuff thrown in. But yeah, I love World Is Not Enough as well, man. That's probably, if I'm going to throw a Pierce on, that's probably it would either be GoldenEye or World Is Not Enough that I would watch the most often, I think. Yeah, that is a beauty. All right, cool.
Good answer though, man. Yeah. Good answer. This is the final question now, 009 question. Now this is a beauty. It'll be interesting to see what you come up with. Sometimes we get sort of the same answer for this, but it is interesting when we have like completely different answers from everyone. But the final question, Matt, is what is your favourite scene in the entire Bond series? One scene.
Yeah. Oh no, that's the toughest one. That. Yeah, one scene. I'm going to go for. It's probably actually this one probably people might not say. I'm going to go for You Only Live Twice. You know, where Bond, you've got they're sort of like at the docks, Fire Kobe docks, and Bond just goes on the roof, says, "Get out of here." She goes down the rope. The music kicks in. He's doing the epic fight, and the Lewis Gilbert. That is. I just think every time I watch that film, I think I can't wait for that bit to come on. It's just amazing.
It's a beauty. Yeah.
That is shot so well, and like you said, when the music kicks in and you just get that bird's eye view, and you're like, well, how is Bond going to get out of this? Because he's got like half a dozen guys coming from that direction, half from that direction, half from that direction, and you just see them drop like flies as he's like going through them all. It's a great scene, that, and I don't think we've had that one before, have we, Tommy?
No, it's usually something like the bit where he says Bond, James Bond, and Dr. No, isn't it? It's usually one of those, which is fair enough, man, because that is brilliant. Yeah. But that is a
great answer,
a first time answer. Cool stuff, man. Excellent. That's the 9 quickfire James Bond questions. I think that's that we've got a good idea of what you are as a Bond fan now, Matt, because I feel like we've worked on these questions for 7 years now, and I think that's a good snapshot of where your tastes are. And we've learned that you like a bit of Brosnan, you like a bit of Solitaire, you also like to go back to the classics like From Russia with Love. Sean's your favourite Bond. You've got a good solid mix of tastes there, where it's not all just straight down the line, everybody loves that, so I'm going to like it too. You've got your own little flavour in there, man, so I'm pleased with that. That's good. And
just before we go, one more tiny question I'm going to throw in, which we're now going to make it, because it's going to be 0010 questions. 0010. What is your favourite pre-title sequence?
Oh, why have we not added that into the series of questions before? That's a great one. I'm writing that down now.
Favourite pre-titles, that's got to be The World Is Not Enough for me. Definitely. I mean, it's a long one. It's like a mini film, to be honest, for PTS. I'm not sure if anything's going to beat that, but it's just amazing. The whole sequence. You've got the start with the suitcase smashing out of Bilbao the window, and then you've got the boat chase. Just completely epic, that one. So for me, it's got to be that. But Yeah.
So you think they definitely did the right job rather than cut after the suitcase scene and then go to the titles and then do the boat chase after the titles? They definitely did it the right way round by keeping the boat chase in there. It's got to be.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's a tough one to call. If I had to make that call, I wouldn't like to be in that person, to be honest, because that could have easily gone wrong. The one thing I would say about The World Is Not Enough is that I would like to have seen more of the storyline between Renard, because Renard was supposed to be the person that shot the sniper, or they were supposed to have some involvement there, wasn't he? At the start of the film. And I think if that would have all linked perhaps throughout the film, we would have understood it more, because I think that's the only criticism I've got of the film, is that it kind of is a bit, the script kind of goes a bit, it's neat touches, but it needs to be more rounded, doesn't it? Where you think you're a bit confused at some places where the characters are. But yeah, no, that pre-titles is epic. I mean, there's so many good ones, isn't there? There's not a bad pre-title, to be fair, is there?
Absolutely. Yeah. What a beaut. That's a good one.
Excellent.
All right, mate. Well, thank you for joining us today. Just to anybody who's not already a member, it's Shaken Not Stirred, the Facebook group that you are the M of. I would describe you. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. I'm not as organised or as thing. Yeah, no, that's more than a compliment. Cheers for that.
Sweet. So go and join Shaken Not Stirred. Make sure you read the rules and behave yourself, because it's a good solid group of people on there. Chris, you've been posting your film polls on a Friday.
That's it. Yeah, every Friday, and they've been going strong. And thanks to everyone at Shaken Not Stirred for getting involved with those, because they're a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, cool stuff. All right then, Matt. Thanks for joining us, man, and we will see you soon, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been a pleasure, Matt. Cheers. Take care. Have a good one, Matt.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, there we go. That was a pretty cool chat with Matt, wasn't it? He had, he's a good guy. I was just trying to think, like, if you were a PE teacher and like you had all the kids in the hall, I would just be playing Bond music all the time. I don't know if they'd probably get a bit sick of it or not, but that's what I'd do.
No, I tell you what it is, man. That's a real education for the youngsters of today, and I think they sorely need it. It's too much of this superhero nonsense. They need to get stuck into some proper Bond, and that's a great way to do it. Get them while they're young and moldable. You know what I mean? Yeah. And no better place than a PE class, really. If you're blasting out some tunes, a bit of African rundown while they're doing gymnastics.
I was just thinking about it. Imagine if you had like the school hall. I'm sure with all the sort of gymnastic stuff and whatever, you could set up and recreate the parkour chase, maybe minus the crane jump, but everything else, I'm sure you could set up a little obstacle course, which would be a lot of fun.
See, that's how you would engage kids with PE, isn't it? You do Casino Royale lesson, parkour, free running, and you'd be like, right, two of you get in pairs. We got who's going to be Malacca, who's going to be Bond, and then Malacca gets 20-second head start or whatever it is. Then Bond has to try and catch him.
That'd be awesome.
That would be. I mean, that would have got me into PE big time back in the day. Yeah,
it might still, Tom.
Maybe it will get me up off the sofa. Who knows? But there we go. Nice one, Matt, for joining us. And if you're not already a member, head on over to Shaken Not Stirred on Facebook and join in the chit chat over there, because it's a nice, positive place to be. Just make sure you follow the rules, as Matt says, and you don't get too gnarly. Otherwise, you'll get booted out. Absolutely, you'll be given the boot like Necros. Anyway, final interview of the day, Chris, is Mr. Steven Sanchez, our man from Gibraltar. Now, why is Gibraltar important to Bond fans, Chris?
Well, for many reasons. I think it was the place where, unfortunately, 004 met his demise.
Indeed it was. Indeed.
And 002 crashed into a tree.
There he is. Absolutely. So, man from Living Daylight's country, it's Steven Sanchez. And my first question of the day is he related to Franz? Because, you got to ask a question like that. If we had someone on like Dave Blofeld, question number one would be like, are you related to Ernst? So that will be, we'll get to the bottom of that particular conundrum. So should we talk to Steve?
Definitely. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's talk to Mr. Steven Sanchez. Steven Sanchez, welcome to James Bond Radio.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I haven't been this nervous since I sat my driving exam. But
there's no need to be nervous. I tell you what, if anybody should be nervous, it's us with a surname like Sanchez. So question number one, Stephen, are you related to Franz? We just got to get that out of the way.
I mean, he's my uncle, but I don't like to say it, because of loyalty and all that. So
absolutely, I like it. Good answer.
And the other thing, Stephen, is unbelievably, you're obviously living in Gibraltar. That's absolutely immense. of it, The Living Daylights, one of the best pre-charter scenes. Have you had a chance to sort of see any of those spots, and what is life like living in Gibraltar?
Yeah, to be honest with you, a lot of the roads are actually off limit for the public. They're in the Ministry of Defence areas, but there's spots which you'll see here and there, which will be like you'll be like, oh, that's from that particular scene and stuff like that. So there's areas where, well, for example, I'm driving along with my father. He'll be like, oh, that's where they shot. They threw the model of the what's it called, the car off the rock and stuff like that. And it's kind of in the, how can I put it? It's one of those things that you hear about. So I think Gibraltar does have a big Bond community. I think possibly because of the film, and obviously the strength of the movies themselves. But you'll hear like, oh, that person was an extra in one of the scenes, or that person was a Bond girl and stuff like that. And my father actually at the time he worked in customs, and he got to meet him, if he's also himself actually through customs.
Oh, no way.
So it's in the DNA, should we say, in Gibraltar.
That's cool, man. So are you Gibraltar born and bred? You grew up there?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow,
born and bred
that's
Gibraltar.
cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, is it? You said obviously a lot of things are off limits to the public. The little bit where he jumps on top of the Jeep with the ear rolled on your dead, is that accessible or is it not accessible?
I think the problem is up the rock. A lot of the roads look the same, but I think that's not accessible. I'm afraid.
That's a shame.
Having said that, when I drive up the rock sometimes, because obviously most of it is accessible, I do often wonder if I'm going to have like Bond jump in my car and headbutt.
I bet.
That hasn't happened so far. So.
Dude, that would be with a future JBR remake. I would love to recreate that, man. You'd have to do the jumping on the Jeep, Chris, because I ain't jumping on.
I'm down for that. That's good.
But I'll do the Paul Weston bit. That'll be
So, Stephen, if you ever like go on holiday or go away, do you always fly back and parachute back into Gibraltar to get home? Is that how everyone travels?
I tell you what, if my wife would have it her way, she would, because she loves, like, she's skydiving and stuff, but I'm petrified of heights, so I wouldn't in a million years. But she probably would.
Nice. That would be the way to do it, wouldn't it, Chris, man? If a future JBR trip to Gibraltar, man, that's how we'll have to descend into the rock.
Right?
I'm sure the military won't mind, yeah.
We always combine this and have a Union Jack parachute as well. And
oh, baby, now we're talking. Good stuff. So, Mr. Sanchez, we're going to take you through the freshly minted 10 JBR quickfire questions. It originally started as 7 quickfire questions. It's now grown to 10. So I hope you're ready for these. We're going to kick straight off with the first one, which is number 1, Mr. Stephen Sanchez. What is your favorite Bond film?
You know, I've been a fan of your show for 6 years, and I've rehearsed this answer 400 times. Like walking to work, in the shower, everywhere. And I always narrow it down to 4. Which would probably be From Russia with Love, in order of release. From Russia with Love, The Spy Who Loved Me, Octopussy, and Casino Royale. So quite different.
Whoa!
Wow, very different ones there.
Now, I like this, Chris. I like it when you get because usually you would get From Russia with Love or whatever. But there's one in particular that sticks out like a sore thumb in that group, isn't there? Which is obviously Octopussy. Now, talk to me. If you're into Casino and From Russia, where does Octopussy land in that row?
To be honest with you, I quite like both elements of Bond films. So I'll always enjoy the serious ones and also the more escapist ones. Octopussy, there's a lot of nostalgia there as well. I'm too young for Octopussy, but when it came out, but there's a lot of nostalgia there as well. And you know, I don't want to preempt any future questions, but I'm a big fan of Sir Roger Moore's Bonds as well. So yeah, it's just always been a personal favorite. I think it's a little underrated because people speak about the clown scene, but I've always thought that I can see why people wouldn't like that, but I've always thought that it creates a really interesting juxtaposition of no one's taking him seriously, you know, everyone's laughing at him, kids are laughing, and he's desperate at the most desperate moments. So I think there's also tense moments here and there which really I quite enjoy of Octopussy. But you know, I do enjoy all of them. I was also thinking about coming up with honorable mentions, but then I honestly, I'd mentioned most of them. So I leave forever.
That's the tricky bit. You've always been quite a harsh is the wrong word. Sorry, a staunch defender of the clown scene, haven't you, Chris? Because you're.
I certainly have. I completely agree with Stephen on this one. Like when people mention the Tarzan yell or the gorilla costume, I can't really defend those moments. I find it very hard to try and to back those up. But I think the clown scene is completely different because he's at a circus. He has to get into a circus tent. There's sort of wardrobe caravans that he can get into. What else is he going to do? And I agree, like the juxtaposition is brilliant. It just adds to the desperation that Bond has, and also the suspense, I think, as well, just within that setting. So that's fab, Stephen. I'm super happy that you mentioned Octopussy. But if you obviously the other three are absolutely killer films as well. So if you had to narrow it down to just the one out of those four, what are you going to go for?
I think by a hair would probably be The Spy Who Loved Me. I think Casino Royale just about misses out. There's others I haven't even mentioned, like On My Secret Service, The Living Daylights and stuff. But I think The Spy Who Loved Me, just because it feels like the quintessential Bond film. Even though I think Casino Royale is arguably a little bit better. Arguably. But it's probably The Spy Who Loved Me, I think. I'd have to say, yeah.
That's excellent. A beauty, isn't it? Spy Who Loved Me. I love that.
Great choice. Yeah. Okay, on to question 2 then, Stephen. What is your favourite James Bond book?
It's well, actually, one of them would be Bond on Bond because I wrote down. I don't normally have those there. They found their way there today. So I haven't actually met Sir Roger. He did sign the copy when I went to see him in the evening of Sir Roger Moore some years ago. But in terms of Fleming, it's probably Casino Royale because I hadn't read the books for many years, and I started reading them I think around 2006 or 2007 when the actual film Casino Royale came out. And it was the first one, and I think it just gripped me. So I think I'd probably have to say Casino Royale.
That's a beauty. Stephen, I've just noticed something. Can you just scooch up a little bit on the camera? I think I might have just noticed you've got a very cool T-shirt on. Let me have a little look.
Oh, yes, Stephen. Yes.
I didn't notice that. I thought it was a random red T-shirt, and I just saw a little glimpse of a PP.
I hadn't realised it wasn't visible.
Very nice. Cool stuff.
Like it.
Question 3 then. Who is your favourite actor to play Bond?
Okay. So the answer is easy for me because it's Sir Roger Moore. The problem is that I feel bad for leaving out all the other actors because it's a bit like choosing your parents, a favourite parent. I think they're all great. I really do. But for me, Sir Roger Moore he was the Bond that my parents introduced me to. And I'm a big fan of his. So I think I've got loads of people, hopefully, to listen to this interview. And I think that none of them will be surprised if I would say Sir Roger Moore.
Now, let me ask you this then. So who was Roger your very first Bond then? That's the first one you saw? I'm born a little bit too late for his era, but he's the first Bond I saw as a child. Yeah, he always seemed to be on TV. So. And do you remember what film that was?
Well, that's actually a really interesting question. I remember a scene where there was a beach, which obviously makes me think of The Man with the Golden Gun and Fair Eyes Only. But I think it's actually Live and Let Die. Because I was very young. I interpreted that like the end scene as a beach in my head, with the showdown with Baron Samedi. Because I remember him shooting someone with a big gun. So I think it must, it doesn't really narrow it down. But I think it's the ending of Live and Let Die. So it must have been Live and Let Die, I think.
That matches the big gun. That definitely.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And what is it, Steve? What is it about Sir Roger that what qualities does Sir Roger have that you think sort of puts him above all the other Bond actors?
I think, well, first of all, I think he does the serious better than they give him credit for. For example, the clown scene. A lot of people pick on the fact that he's dressed as a clown, but the acting and the desperation he shows is, I think, pretty good. Scenes like The Spy Who Loved Me when he's confronting Anya about the death of a partner. And Fair Eyes Only, of course, the kick of the car. But I think he's probably, for me, as an actor, he's got the knack of taking on a ride with him. I think in terms of escapism, he does it like no one else can. I think he's very good. I think, for example, he's the only person I could ever see doing Moonraker. So because he just really takes you on a ride with him. I think that's probably the reason, and I do enjoy like escapism in films. So I think that's probably why I would choose Sir Roger Moore. Obviously he is the least Fleming, but in terms of entertainment, I don't think it's hard to argue that he isn't anything other than very entertaining to see on TV.
That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah,
you know what? I also think, like when you say about the serious moments there, I think you're absolutely right, and it's almost amplified a bit because he usually is so eyebrow raising and funny in the role. When he does get serious, it almost makes it more powerful, doesn't it? It's like when, famously he always talks about kicking Locke off the top in For Your Eyes Only and all that kind of stuff, and like you say, that serious moments with Anya, like in the club where she buys him the drink and they buy each other the drinks. And she hints about his wife, and she says, "Oh, you're sensitive," and he's like, "About certain things, yes." And it's just that when you hit those points, you're like, "Oh, all right," you know what I mean? There's a little something under there, and it's. I'm glad to hear that, man. It pleases me to hear somebody who loves Roger as much as I do. That's a great thing.
I've always been a huge fan, and of him personally as well. I think he was sadly a great guy.
What a legend!
I tell you what would be interesting as well is if someone edited all the serious moments from the Roger Bonds. I think you'd get way more footage than anyone thinks. A View to a Kill, half the film he's like really sort of somber or sort of angry or that sort of state. So I think that would be quite interesting.
I'm just thinking about it. I may be wrong here, but in terms of the references to Tracy, I think he probably has two of the biggest really, and I think both of those moments are quite like emotional. Like I'm thinking of The Spy Who Loved Me, the scene you mentioned, and the beginning of For Your Eyes Only, where you really feel the grief as he's visiting the grave. So yeah, I do think those serious moments are quite hitting, should we say?
Yeah, big time.
Definitely. Okay, then on to question number 4, Stephen. Who is, and we can allow 2 answers if you want for this, who is your favourite James Bond girl? Your favourite Bond girl? This could be the one that you think, the one that you fancy the most, the one that really gets you going, and also the one who you think is the best character.
These are the moments I regret telling my wife that I was hearing on here. I think probably my overall favourite is, it's just difficult, but probably, again, I'm sounding like a broken record, but probably Octopussy, actually, because I love the fact that she's the head of a criminal organisation. I think it gives a bit of an edge. Obviously, she's very beautiful as well. That helps. But I think it gives a quite interesting edge, the fact that she's the head of a criminal organisation. And I've also quite liked Natalia Simonova from GoldenEye.
Very nice.
I was 5 or 6 when it came out, and she made quite an impression on me, should we say? So, and that impression has lasted.
Good answers.
Excellent
Very
answers.
good answers.
Yeah, absolutely, big time. Question number 5 is: who is your favourite Bond villain?
Wow. I would probably say Le Chiffre. I think he's a little underrated, perhaps. You don't really get many people talking about him. But I think anyone who tortures someone like that deserves to be top of the list.
Yeah.
If not the Chief, I go the complete other way and say someone like Drax, who I think is just brilliant to see in Moonraker. But there's just so many.
I love Le Chiffre. I think he's brilliant. He might be up there with the best of them, I think. And I think maybe just a bit more time needs to, because you've got the old classics, like you say, like your Draxes and your Goldfingers and all those old school ones. But then, damn, man, I feel like there was a point before Casino came out where we could so easily have said, all the best Bond films have already been made, and it's, we're just sort of charging forward, regurgitating things in slightly different ways. But when that film came out, man, that so was the reboot we all needed, and that dude played that part to absolute perfection, as far as I'm concerned. Just the right balance of being sort of like eccentric enough to be a Bond villain without being too generic. Like I would say Dominic Green, bit too generic. He could have been a villain in any film, really. He's not, in my book, not really a Bond villain. He didn't have that thing about him. Le Chiffre, I think, sits in there perfectly in a world that's the real world Bond, or as close to that as you could ever get, whilst also being a really good Bond villain as well, man. And the weeping tears of blood, man, was just brilliant. And that's sort of like, he's got that sort of pale, waxy look to him throughout the whole film, isn't he? It's almost a little bit vampire styling. I think he's brilliant, man. He might even be a top 3 villain for me. He might even be the best one. I don't know. I've got to let some time pass before I can really make that call. But he's right up there for me.
I'm just kind of thinking about it now. I think one thing which makes him one of the best for me is that he's probably one of the ones I'm scared of the most, or I would be scared of the most in the real world. And I think that you can see him like becoming more and more desperate and dangerous as the film progresses and the stakes kind of become higher and higher, and he's losing more and more. And I just think, of all the kind of Bond villains, I mean, he's probably the one who I think would, if I ever confronted, I'd be afraid of, to be totally honest with you. Obviously, some of the early ones are written to be more like eccentric and stuff like that. But I definitely think, perhaps because he's not at the very end of the climax of the film, but people perhaps sometimes overlook him. But I think with time, they'll probably, I have to be honest, I think as good as Silver is from Skyfall, I think the Sheep is probably, for me, the better Craig villain. Oh, they're both great.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. And I think there's a line that Le Chiffre says about the Weeping Blood where he says nothing sinister, but that's completely the opposite of what his character is, because his character is so sinister. He's so calculating. He's ahead of Bond all the time. You think about like when they're playing the poker, the dirty martini, everything like this. And you put a really good point there, Stephen, in terms of how his character changes as the film goes on. It just gets sort of, like it's the desperation, but then it makes him do obviously ending in the torture sort of thing. But he is brilliant, and that real life sort of feel for the film, but obviously him as well, just does make him that more scary. It's a bit like Red Grant, like him from Russia. That is a dude who could exist easily, and that makes it infinitely more scary than something that's a little bit too fantastical or out there. And I think Le Chiffre is one of those. There's just that element, like, you know, with the Weeping Blood, like Tom said, and he and I think he's underrated as well. I think not only it might be that he doesn't finish the end of the film, but it's also he's still quite a modern villain. Like in terms of 2006, there hasn't been many films since then, and everyone kind of thinks classic villain. They go old school a lot of the time. But yeah, no, totally, man. I think Le Chiffre's brilliant. You know what? The tricky bit is he doesn't have like that big set piece ending that so many of the villains have, like the big fight or whatever it is. He doesn't have that. And also the thing that makes him different as well is the fact that he does have his scheme that he's trying to pull off, but he's also being hunted as well. And there's he's on the defensive, isn't he? Essentially, he's not trying to take over the world, or he hasn't got this grand plan in terms of, you know, stealing $1 billion or whatever it is. It's like he's desperate because he has to do this to save his own skin, and that's so unique in terms of Bond villainy, isn't it? But yeah, man, I think for me the ending of Le Chiffre is great, man, because you've got Bond in the chair there. Pure Fleming, and then you see the terror in his eyes when Mr. White comes through the door and he's like, I'll get the money, and then boom, and you see him just drop in front of the camera and it's like, holy shit. And when you hear Mr. White say, you know, our organization, I think I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's like, trust is more important to our organization than money, or whatever it is he says, and I'm instantly like, holy shit, man, that's the organization that I want to explore more. You know what I mean? And I'm so excited by that concept. It's like, I don't need no big showdown fight at the end. I'm so happy with that. I think it really sets up it really sets up some, like, you know, that organization. You see the Sheep, you think he's intimidating, he's scary, he's desperate. And then obviously you find out that there's something else, an organization behind that. I think it really also sets up that's what eventually Spectre quite well, I think. If he's scary, imagine the people hunting him. Exactly. Yeah, big time. Okay then, Stephen, on to question 6. What is your favourite James Bond theme song? I always seem to rotate between the same films and answers, but probably Nobody Does It Better. If only because it's the one I listen to every day. I'd like to say. Really? Again, there's just so many of those. You know, Live and Let Die.
I think You Know My Name is also quite underrated again. If I had to say one of them, I'd probably say Nobody Does It Better, though. It's just, it doesn't have the punch, in the sense that it's not like a Live and Let Die or something like that, or Thunderbolt. But as a ballad, I think it's probably the best one of the lot. So, and I just listen to it very often for some reason or another.
It is a beauty, that one, isn't it? It's one of the few that transcends Bond, isn't it? And it's like that gets a lot of play on the radio and almost exists in its own right. Like we often say, Live and Let Die is similar to that. That's always played on like classic rock radio and all that kind of stuff. I tell you what, though, there's something about that tune that is truly magical, and I always say it's in the outro, in the end when it's the baby you're the best, and all the horns kick in and all that stuff. Man, that just pleases me on a deep level. That tune, it's a beauty. Yeah. And what I will also say, as a fellow Rog fan, is I think that song belongs to Roger just as much, if not more, than it does James Bond, I think.
Yeah. I don't want to. Maybe I know it's a controversial thing to say, but I can't think of Nobody Does It Better and think of any other James Bond actor. I just always think of Sir Roger Moore. So I agree with that. And you mentioned Live and Let Die. Actually, I was this pains me, but I was gonna go on a driving holiday up to France last May to see Paul McCartney, and hopefully have seen Live and Let Die. But sadly, for obvious reasons, that never happened.
Yeah.
So I was devastated by that. But
mate. He does knock that out in his set. I saw him years ago at Coachella, and that was a magical moment. You get the big fireworks and stuff when it kicks into the din 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 part, and all. It's truly a goosebump moment for sure. Question number 7 then. What is your favourite Bond location? And we can talk about 2 here. One that you have visited, and then one that you would like to visit the most.
Yeah, I'm not going to say Gibraltar because that would be although it is my favourite Basilica. I think my favourite that I have visited will probably be Himeji Castle in Japan.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Beauty.
It was actually my honeymoon, and my wife was she's great with these things. She organised for us to take a stop on the way from Tokyo to Hiroshima. And we stopped at Himeji Castle, and that was probably my favourite, along with Venice as well. I remember there was a moment where I was on a gondola, which sadly wasn't on ground, but it was very romantic. It was my wife, the gondolier was singing, and I thought life can't get any better. And then he just pointed at the building. He's like, "Oh, and that building is the one that collapses in Casino Royale." And I just thought, "Oh, that can get better." I just felt a need to tell him, "Oh, I'm a Bond fan," because I always kind of do in these situations.
Yeah.
But in terms of places I haven't been to, initially I was tempted to say outer space, but
that's a good one.
Which would be cool. But I think probably Peace Gloria. I think that would probably be it. I think that's probably like the place to go.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to go to. That or James Bond Island.
It's funny. When I went to James Bond Island for the second time, we rented a boat and went super early, so none of the crowds would be there. So we were there way before any of the tourist boats. And we had a tour guide with us. And I love it when they start teaching you something about Bond, and it's like you're sitting there like, is she going to get this right, or I'm keeping out of the details? And she was explaining to us that this was in the Bond film starring Roger Moore called Man with the Golden Gun. And I was like, good work, you've done your homework, well done.
Yeah. Himeji Castle must have been amazing though, Stephen. Like, obviously that hasn't changed since filming. So did you have much time there? Did you manage to see all the different sort of location areas?
More or less. I didn't have too much time because it was basically a stop off on the train. But we had enough time to look at most locations and pose for photos and stuff like that. The classic with a finger doing the gun poses and stuff like that. Didn't get attacked by ninjas, but
disappointing, but
disappointing. But yeah, no, we had enough time to do all the locations. And it does feel like obviously the same, for obvious reasons. So it felt very much. In fact, the whole holiday, I had the theme of "You Only Live Twice" like in my head. And that was obviously the pinnacle of when it was most ingrained in my head.
Excellent. Wow.
Beautiful stuff.
Okay, we've only got 3 more questions for you. And question number 8 is, what is your favourite pre-title scene?
I have to say that Living Daylights really don't I?
I think so, yeah. And it is an absolute belter as well.
Yeah. Legitimately, I think it's one of the best ones. I also, if you want to take that away, because it would be cheating for me, although I do generally think it's very good, I'd probably say I think Casino Royale is very good. Although I was watching, I think one of the anniversary videos you guys had a few years ago, where you said it may be better had they not shown Daniel Craig's face until the reveal at the very end. So I think that probably would maybe mark a little higher. As it is, it's still very good though. Yeah. So one of those two I think would be. I'm probably forgetting one, but I mean the Spy Who Loved Me is iconic, obviously. But I think those two are probably my favorites.
Those are some great ones. For me, I think, Spy is amazing and iconic. For me, it's the sneaky Bond ones that get me the most excited. Your Goldfinger, Daylights, GoldenEye. I love them all. But yeah, my most exciting, the thing that excites me the most is when they introduce a new Bond and he does some cool Bond stuff and you just don't see his face for a little while. Like you get that in GoldenEye, you get it in Living Daylights. In Living Daylights, you get that wonderful reveal where he turns around and looks like past the camera. And it's like, there's your new Bond right there. And dude, oh God, it's so difficult to choose. But I don't think you can beat the Living Daylights for a pre-title sequence, especially to introduce a new Bond.
Yeah.
And hit all the points, man. And the way it ends as well on that boat is so glorious. You know what I mean? It's like, oh God, it is brilliant. So
the musical cue that goes along with it, Exercise at Gibraltar, is outstanding. Like when they jump out of the aeroplane, the 3 00s, the music sounds like air. I don't know how John Barry does it, but it's an amazing piece of music with it as well.
And you mentioned like in introduces a Bond, and I've always wondered, because I've always thought that maybe actually Sir Roger's introduction is probably like the one that just kind of happens.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered if they were to do it again, how they would introduce Sir Roger as a Bond, even if it's
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? With his first two, it's like he's not even in the pre-titles at all, is he? So
exactly.
He doesn't get that moment, does he? He's just, in bed.
He's just in bed, which is very Roger.
I always thought maybe the Spy Who Loved Me introduction would work as his first ever, even though he's also still in bed. It builds up to it with a joke, and then bang, he's there, with a woman in bed, and that would probably be the way I think they would introduce Sir Roger's Bond, which it kind of did, because the Spy Who Loved Me was like not a reboot, obviously, but kind of like a big in-your-face kind of film.
A big step up, Cool stuff. Okay, second to last question then, and this is a new one. Stephen Sanchez, what is your most controversial or unpopular Bond opinion?
Wow, I didn't expect this one. Most controversial.
Or if there's something that most people don't like that you just love, or vice versa.
I mean, does it count if I say a lot of Moonraker? I mean, I think a lot of people do love it, but it's a guilty pleasure. Actually, I don't know if this counts, but the double tick pigeon from Moonraker.
That definitely counts.
That's a great shout.
I've always wondered how, like, and I don't want to sound nasty, but the editing for the pigeon looks so, like, not great, but then you've got them going to outer space and it looks perfect. But it just, every time I see the pigeon, it just makes me smile every single time. So I can't say I dislike it. I'm happier that the Bond world has that double tick pigeon.
I tell you what, that is a controversial one, and I salute you for it, man. That's great.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Stephen. Okay, we're down to the last question. Question number 10. This could be the hardest one as well. If you had to choose one scene in the entire series, what would be your favourite?
Okay, so I've narrowed it down to 3. I think the first Bond, James Bond from Connery, is like one of the best moments in cinema. I think most iconic. So that would be one of them. The runner-up would probably be the end of Casino Royale with Daniel Craig again saying the same line. I think that's just, it builds up brilliantly with the music in the background. But actually, my favorite is the backgammon scene of All Things Octopussy. When he rolls the dice and 666s, fancy that. And I love how charming and like just in control of the situation he is.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite. And it's one of the ones I just remember from being a child.
You know what's funny, Stephen? Every single answer that you've given us today, Tom and I have both been like, "Yep, yep, you're right on our wavelength." Yeah. Unbelievable.
That's great to hear. That's great.
That backgammon thing is a beautiful thing. It's beautifully executed. Just I love the sound of the dice in the cup. There's something musical about it. Just the way it sounds. But the way he just holds his gaze, man, and if I was in that spot, I would have to just have a quick look just to make sure that it was a double six. I wouldn't trust myself enough to keep eye contact, and he does the whole time, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And Khan just simmers through that scene, doesn't he? He's just you can see the evil reptilian vibe that he has. That it just played to perfection, man.
You say that, Tom, but I've heard from a little birdie that you might have reenacted that scene with a certain someone and pulled off the James Bond double sixes. Fancy that.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, Chris. Whoever that was, I don't know. But yeah, nicely done, man. That was some great answers there, dude. I am very pleased with your taste in Bond, because let's face it, when we meet fellow Bond fans, all of us, even when we're respectful of other people's opinions, all of us on some level are judging, aren't we? We're going, oh, right, okay, he likes that, he doesn't like that. Okay, that's good. Yes, I agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. We're all doing that on some level. And through every single one of your answers, I approve. You get my stamp of approval. Does he get your stamp of approval, Chris?
It's certainly. Every single one, I've been like nodding, like, yep, spot on, Stephen. Absolutely.
It's funny you should say that, because obviously I've been a fan for a long time, but there were some, I had to catch up with the episodes, and I kept hearing your opinions more and more, getting more and more opinions, and I had the same feeling. I'm like, these guys just get it. So, I feel the same way, obviously.
Beautiful. Good stuff, man. Well, thanks for being the listener. You said you've been listening for 6 years, was it? Did you say?
It's 6 years, yeah. So it must have been sometime 2014. I started listening, yeah.
Yeah. Not long after we started,
with us,
wasn't it? Yeah. Thank you. Hopefully you'll stick with us for many more years to come.
Yeah,
absolutely will.
Cool stuff. All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us. I am sure when the world opens up again, there will be a JBR trip to Gibraltar. So when that day happens, man, you'll have to come and join us, and we can bring a paint gun and shoot each other and run around in our overalls. It'll be great fun.
Yeah. I'll parachute in, so it'll be all right.
Yeah. Cool stuff. All right then, Stephen. Thanks for joining us, man. We will see you soon, no doubt.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Stephen. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. There we go, mate. How cool was that? Not only was he immaculately dressed in his bright red JBR t-shirt, he is literally living down the road from an iconic Bond location. So I think, man, that is when the world opens up once again and we can all move around freely. I feel like a JBR trip to Gibraltar has to be on the cards, doesn't it? Because it's not that far away, is it? So it's not like we've got to go miles. But I'd love to do that, man. What about you?
It would be amazing, but there is a but. Okay. In terms of where we were allowed to go. I think maybe if we arrived in Gibraltar with some like camo gear in our rucksack that we could quickly change to, get some dog tags or an army hat and see how we get on, we might be all right just to buy. Do you think they'd let us pass like a group of JBR all dressed up in army gear?
Man, if you're going to go and do a Bond location tour in Gibraltar, there is only one way to get in there, and that's behind enemy lines, jumping out the back of a plane, doing a little parachute down. Hopefully you don't land on a tree with your black overalls on, and then it doesn't matter, does it? We just get in there, we do some sneaky Bond style. What do you reckon?
That's it. Well, if they say no, we'll just paintball them. Be all right.
There we go. Job done. Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, man, Gibraltar, definitely. That's definitely on the cards. And I'd love to do that. But big thanks to Mr. Sanchez for joining us today. That was a good chat. Some good Bondian opinions today. I've been pleased with the results.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, isn't it? How I know we mentioned it quite a bit, but there are some people who you just see eye to eye on everything Bond, like every single point. You've got the same opinion about a film or an actor or a scene, whatever it might be. And there are others that you'll have a crossover where there are some bits that you both agree on and then some bits where you just don't. And then there are the occasional Bond fans, which are just polar opposites.
Yeah.
Where your interest and are just completely different. But that again, that's the fun of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, big time. Cool stuff. All right, so big thanks to all of our guests today. That's the Porters, that's Matt Wood, and obviously Stephen Sanchez as well. It was a lot of fun chatting to you. Now, Chris, on that note, or rather not on that note at all, because it's completely unrelated, it's time for a little bit of...
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt and how did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in the Nivea? It's Tommy Trivia.
That's right, it's time for a bit of Tommy Trivia, where Chris whacks out his cards and quizzes me on the questions. You're having some trouble with the
I know.
with the background
there we
there,
go,
the cards up. But yes, so let's get to it, man. It's been a while.
Okay.
I don't know
It
whether I'm
has
going to be
indeed.
rusty on my Tommy Trivia.
Right. Mr. Tommy Sears, would you like to start with casting characters, the films, vehicles, gadgets and weapons, locations, or crew and behind the scenes?
I'm going to go the films. I'm going to ease myself
Films. Right. Okay, are you ready?
in. I am.
Question number 1. What power does Solitaire lose after she is seduced by Bond?
The power to see into the future, Chris.
That is right. And how does she lose? What is it exactly? Is it just that she's seduced, or is there a certain action that has to take place before she loses this power?
How graphic do you need me to be?
Well, it's pretty graphic on the back of this Trivial Pursuit card. It's basically says there's no sense in going off half cocked, but
Bond ploughs the field. That's what I'll say.
There
How
we
about
go.
that?
Lovely. Well, I would certainly give you a point for that one.
Thank you very much.
Okay, on to the vehicles. What vehicle takes Bond to Drax's estate?
What vehicle takes Bond? That would be a helicopter.
Yes, excellent stuff.
Nice.
Okay, gadgets and weapons. How does Elliot Carver die?
He gets minced up in the sea drill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. 3 out of 3. Let's see
Nice.
if you can continue. This is okay. We're on to locations now. What type of establishment is Bond in the first time he's seen in Dr. No?
A casino.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Good one. Okay. Now, this one is sometimes the hardest, crew and behind the scenes, but we'll see. In what year was your favourite Bond film, Die Another Day, first released?
2002.
You do love that film, Tommy. I knew it.
It was a dark time for the Bond fans.
Okay, so basically you've powered through. We got 5 out of 5. One more question, and you've hit the home run. Okay.
Lovely.
The final question is casting characters. Who plays Blofeld?
All right. Okay. Let's see here.
If you get this, man, I'm going to go ballistic.
I'm going to say Telly Savalas.
No effing way.
Is it?
Oh, hang on a minute. Oh,
can't-
come on.
I
Why
can't-
is it? Can you see that? Top one.
Hey! I went and did it.
Tommy, amazing.
There you go. Clean slate, mate.
Superb.
Beautiful. I'm feeling good. I've eased myself back in. I'm moving forward. I'm confident. But Chris, the question is are you confident? Because we've got a brand new game for you today called Bondbusters. Okay.
Are you going to do that every time?
Maybe. Yeah, I like it. Bondbusters. Now,
Right.
this I'm going to need to explain this. Our British brothers
Yeah.
and sisters will know what Blockbusters is, right? Absolutely iconic 80s game show.
With a
starring-
Bond connection.
With a Bond connection. Do you want to tell everybody what the Bond connection is?
I will. So the host of Blockbusters, Mr. Bob Holness, was basically he portrayed Bond in a radio play of Moonraker.
Indeed. in
Prior
South Africa, wasn't it? Yeah.
prior to Dr. No, wasn't it? Was it 57, 58? I think it was 58.
It was way back. It was back in the 50s. I can't remember exactly what. But do you remember Mark Edlitz found the contract that he signed back?
That
in
was
his
incredible,
book,
wasn't it?
The Many
Yeah.
Lives of James Bond. Yeah, so it's a Blockbusters connection. Now, here's how Blockbusters works, right? This is a kind of, squiffy version of it. There was like a board involved in the actual game show. But here's what's going to happen, right? The contestant, in this case, Mr. Chris Wright, is going to give me a letter, right? So he might say, I'll have a tea, please, Tom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the James Bond Lexicon by the Porters, and I'm going to go to tea, and I'm going to ask him a question based on what that tea is. So, for example, as I mentioned in the interview with Alan and Jill, there was an entry there under tea for Tom Doig, who was an internal house decorator that Bond employed in Solo, right? So the question might be, what tea was it? It was a home decorator that Bond employed in Solo. And then obviously Chris would have to say, well, that would of course be Tom Doig, right?
I'm not going to pick tea.
So I'm going to try and be nice because there are so many entries. I'm going to try and pick some achievable ones for you without giving the game away, obviously. But we're going to do 3 rounds, okay? So that's how Bondbusters works, everybody. I hope you've been following along, and I hope you understand how it works. So, Chris,
yes,
what letter would you like to start the game?
Well, there's only one letter that I can start with, Tom.
Go on.
Could I have a P, please?
You have a P. Okay, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Flip into P.
I'm a bit nervous.
Okay, you should be, man.
Is there a fourth?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
What P is a handgun modified to fire climbing things attached to length of ropes?
I would say, is that a piton?
It is a piton. Ding, 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 ding. Well done, Chris. Okay, would you like another letter?
Not really. Okay. Okay. Could I please have a B?
B.
Tom. I was going to call you Bob.
That is, you can call me Bob if you like.
All right.
That's a good letter. Okay, let me just scan through because okay. Chris Wright. What B is an old contact of Bond's whose name enabled him to request help from the Hungarian gypsies?
What B? Can you repeat the question, please? What B?
What B is an old contact of Bond's whose name enabled him to request help from the Hungarian gypsies? Now, the B refers to the last name.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Bay.
Absolutely. First name?
Ali Karim.
Ali Karim Bay. Well done, you. Ding, ding, ding. Number 2 in the bag. Okay, one final letter from you, please, Chris.
Could I have a W, please, Tom?
A W. Okay. Let's see. Now you mean okay? Yeah, I forgot which order letters come there for a moment. Okay. Let's have a little look. Okay. Which W was a staff doctor at MI6 who had an on-again, off-again relationship with Bond?
Warm Flash, Tom.
Ding,
Molly.
ding, 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 ding. Absolutely. Dr. Molly Warmflash. Well done, man.
Wow.
3 out of 3.
Wow. And what's it called? I know it's normally 5, I think. What's it called when they used to get all the way across and then it'd flash and go, what was that?
Is that a blockbuster?
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, I think 3's enough. My heart's going too much. So,
all right. Yeah, very
cheers
nice.
for that.
All right, good.
I like
we're gonna have to get Dan to make us a Bondbusters theme tune, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because we're just going ba is not it's not going to cut the mustard, is it? So Dan, man, if you have a creative moment, if you listen to this, give us a bit of Blockbusters action, a bit of Bondbusters. That would be lovely. All right, man. That's about all for today, isn't it? Have you enjoyed yourself?
I have, yeah. It's been great to be back. Obviously, a bit of a celebration for the 7th year anniversary. Nice to celebrate the release of the Bond Lexicon, James Bond Lexicon as well. And get back in the game and have some good Bond chat. It's been a while.
Absolutely, man. All right, then. So until next time, JBR will return with some more listener interviews next week. Next week, we have a double bill. We've got a guest from our British Isles, Mr. Alex Robson's up next week. And we have a guest from the opposite side of the world, down under, which I think was Brisbane, Australia, with Mr. Brendan Lowe. So they're going to be who are joining us next week. Are you excited about that?
Oh, yeah. Can't
Absolutely.
wait.
Cool stuff. All right, then. Until then, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright.
And JBR will return. We'll see you next week, everybody.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.